he was not happy.
Yeah.
Going live. And we are live.
Are we?
We are.
Okay.
All right. First live Q&A in... How long has it been? It's been a while.
8.
More than 8 months.
I really don't know.
Our baby's 8 months.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have done a live for probably 10 months.
Very long time. So hey guys.
Hope you are well wherever you are. We're very excited to do this, by the way.
Just gonna turn that off.
Our 8-month-old is in bed having a nap right now, but that could change at any moment. So
Could change at any moment, yeah. So
One of
sorry
us-
if one of us has to rush off. Probably me.
we'll probably carry him for the duration, if he wakes up, for the duration of this Q&A.
Okay, so should we just get started or?
Yeah. We'll wait for more people
Yeah,
to join
we'll
as
wait for
well.
more people to come.
We've got some questions, some great questions.
Hi, Celine or Celine?
Sorry if
Hi,
we've
Leah.
ignored your questions
Is it-
in last few months. Life's been busy. Our joints are pretty wrecked. Rocking the baby
Yes.
for the last however many months.
Is it Leah, the one who comments on my blog? Chandra, hi. So guys, we are in the country of Australia, the state of Victoria, which is the most locked down place in the world.
Yes, but also the most livable city in the world too. Not anymore. So it looks like the lockdown will continue on for a little bit longer. All right. Now,
Oh, hi Leah, it is you. Nice to see you on here.
all right. So, guys, any questions? Just pop in the comments section below. We'll try and address them as we go along. In the meantime, there are a few other questions that I thought I'll just address whilst we're at it. I'm not sure if Elena's with us at the moment, but she will be later on.
She said she might not make it.
Okay.
She said she hoped she would make it. Hey Jessica. Hey Mavana. Oh, Adelaide. You were going to travel there a few weeks,
Yeah.
but you couldn't.
Cancel those plans. No chance of making it over there.
Camera's breaking up, Transcending Soul says.
It's probably just the
It's
internet.
just the YouTube, yeah. Hi Sanasha.
I hope you guys can at
from
least
Guyana.
hear us.
Is that how you say it? Guyana?
I'm not sure.
Guyana?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope you guys can still hear us. Let me know if you can't.
We should get into it ASAP, guys. Don't worry, we won't be here dragging our feet for too long.
Okay, I just want to quickly address a couple of questions from...
So, yeah, the big inspiration was Alina, one of
Elena.
our members who's been with us for a long time, and she's going really great with her boyfriend whom
of
she met
10
thanks
months?
to using high value banter. Yeah,
It's
10
been
months.
10 months.
Yeah.
That's really, really well done.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? Wows in her story was the fact that she realized that she had always had insecure attachment patterns, and those were the reasons primarily for her being in the situation that she was in, and to be in a relationship.
A lot of women do have anxious, avoidant attachment or insecure attachment.
Yeah, and to be in a relationship for 10 months, that's amazing. That's really well done.
Very good.
And I'm so happy to hear that. And you know, it's been really good just following her journey as well, because she's been with us for how many years?
Yeah.
So many years.
And there's a few of them recently who have also managed to, who've been with us for a while, who have found someone, largely thanks to banter. Yeah.
One of the...
It just gets your dating life, or should I say relationship, it gets your interactions with a man off on the right foot.
And you get the positive feedback.
Yeah.
And you feel better about yourself, and that gets the ball rolling. And I think that is an integral part of her journey in creating a more secure attachment style for herself. And on the topic of attachment styles, I was thinking of actually coming up with a mini workshop titled "Securing Your Attachment Styles."
Securing your
Yeah,
attachment
so
style.
creating a more secure attachment style, and I was actually brainstorming the 3 steps, or the 3 key components to doing that for yourself, creating a more secure attachment style for yourself if you believe that you have insecure attachment styles, whether that's avoidant or anxious, it doesn't matter. I think there are definitely ways to do this. So if you feel like this will be useful, let me know in the comments below. I feel like a lot of the women that
Hi Rachel. Sorry, David.
get to learn
Hi the solo tripper.
attachment styles as a framework, they go, wow, this answers so many questions. This
It's needed.
explains everything. And one of the biggest things that I remember from our little chat with Elena, this is probably, how long ago was this? A year ago.
You can see, guys, actually, Elena is kind of famous on the blog. She's one of the ladies who you might see in all of my blog posts, not all of my blog posts, but a lot of the blog posts. Her interview, her case study is in there. She's one of those interviews. She's got the lovely blonde hair and the purple top on, I think. So you can learn about her story there. But yeah, typical case of someone who had anxious attachment style and struggled to get into the relationship because at the beginning of every relationship, she would go into this spiral of anxiety. And, if the guy would pull away even slightly or there was a hiccup along the way, she couldn't seem to escape and get through and manage that anxiety. So this is really a turning point for her. It's a success story.
One of the biggest moments in that case study was when she realized that all her girlfriends who were securely attached were already in a relationship or married. And it was the ones that did not have secure attachment styles. They were the ones who were single.
I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that made me think, wow, there must be so many people out there with just subconsciously walking around with insecure attachment styles and not realizing that was the core issue.
Especially in this day and age. Because way back when, say, 50 to 80 years ago, it was more the done thing to get into a committed relationship, right? And so people we know some older generation people who clearly do not have a secure attachment style, who are in relationships, but it's absolutely clear that they are suffering and the quality of their relationship, they're married, but the relationship is basically non-existent. So they're just existing together, basically. But in a day and age where anything goes, you don't have to be married to, it's not really as much the social norm now. I think what her observation is probably more and more true.
Yeah.
That the insecurely attached people really struggle to get into.
Yeah, because you get to a stage where if you're lucky, things go well.
Yeah.
You go, oh my God, it's going too well. That's just completely outside my comfort zone.
You sabotage it.
I hate this kind of intimacy because it's not certain. They don't have that certainty grounded in that intimacy. So they sabotage it in all sorts of creative and wonderful ways.
It's true.
So, guys, if you want to learn more about attachment styles, comment below and maybe we'll come up with some.
Yeah.
But I really do think that her story, I think we need to maybe do a follow-up with her.
Yeah.
And because I do think that you can and you have the power to influence and change your attachment styles. It's not easy. It will never be easy, but I think it's possible. And I was just writing last night in my notebook 3 possible steps to take in order to secure your own attachment style. But we won't disclose what they are right now, but that might be coming in the near future.
Well, incidentally, I am one of those people who has managed to change my attachment style. Not fully, absolutely not, because that's just not possible in the span of 10 years that I've been working on it. But I would say it's really your assessment of how much I'm better. I would say maybe 70% better in my previously anxious, avoidant.
Yeah, I can't really put a number on it, but I think it's a lot more than 70%, and also.
Oh really? Okay.
And also, I think a lot of it gets practiced when you have kids.
So
Because
true.
they demand
Yes.
that intimacy from you, and that gets practiced every day.
Yep, 100%.
So
And I can talk more about that at another time, but I do think we should address people's questions.
we should address people's questions. Should we answer some of Elena's questions in our alumni?
Did you want to get to Elena's after answering these people?
Okay, sure.
Because
We can do that. We can do that.
so Elena, if you come on, just leave a comment so we know, and then we can get to your questions. Oh, Rachel Bells says you are describing my current journey. Yeah, very common.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And this is also why I think it's imperative that you start to practice this kind of playful banter that we teach. I think it's so important because what this does...
because it's so hard for anyone
is
who's
hard.
anxiously attached.
It is difficult. It is difficult. And what I found was that securely attached people, find it intuitive to banter.
100%. Yeah.
Insecurely attached people, not so much at all.
Yeah.
And that's why you should practice it. Make it, make banter a place that you go to as a place of familiarity. Make it your own. Make it just feel at home with banter, and that takes a lot of practice. And when you can do that, I truly believe that banter is one very strong way for you to start to create a more secure attachment style, because it adds value to the other person. You get positive feedback, and that positive reinforcement is very, very important.
Yeah. And, you know, when I first started, I would say I was on the extreme of insecurely attached. And, you know, even speaking to people, I would stutter. I mean, I had a very minor stuttering problem. And it's interesting because trying to communicate with people and forcing myself to engage, especially in that style of banter, actually brought it out. And you would think, oh my God, that's a bad thing, and you want to retreat and hide. But the more you want to retreat and hide, that's more the indicator that you actually need to engage further with people and use this style, or not your style of banter.
Yeah, I think it's a skill to learn, and it also helps overall your associations with intimacy, relationships, and just connecting with people in general. Because it's when you're insecurely attached, and this is me not speaking from experience, but just understanding how the framework works. When you're insecurely attached, your view of the world is very different.
100%.
You don't feel like you have value to offer to people in every conversation or interaction.
It's heartbreaking.
But when you get that ability, when you can go up to anyone at any time in any context, and you know that you have value to add to that interaction, then you approach the world differently, very differently. Yeah. And it'll give you a sense of not just confidence, but a sense of self-esteem as well.
Well, it's a much needed sense of vulnerability as well. You know, even if you can't make the banter work, your intention to do so, your intention to be there to engage is so important, and that's a gift that you give to yourself, first and foremost.
Yeah. Exactly. So you don't create disconnects, you create connects.
Yes, that's right. Questions?
All right, do you want to pick one?
Okay. Okay, should we go all the way up? So Mary Jo says, I'm 25, been with my boyfriend for 1.5 years, lived with him for a few months. He says he's not ready to get engaged. Any tips or suggestions to help him along? How long should I wait, and how do I know?
25 years old, 1.5 years, lived with him for a few months. He said he's not ready to get engaged. Okay, that's the extent of what we know. At the end of the day, there could be a lot of different reasons, but you know, at 25, I don't know exactly how old he is, but 1.5 years, it's not a great deal of time. It really depends on what stage of life he's in. For a lot of guys, especially at 25, they're not ready to settle down because they're not in any financial situation to be able to provide. Because what that means, if you look at it from a man's perspective, okay, a wedding ring, engagement ring, a wedding ring, a wedding, and often in many cultures that means a house, a car, and the rest. I mean, how many men?
It's a huge responsibility that most men take very seriously.
Yeah, and men intuitively want to be good providers. They,
Yeah.
they want to feel like they're succeeding in that role. And if they can't, and by the way, these things cost quite a lot in this day and age. I don't know anyone, I don't know many people under the age of 30 who are able to, you know, provide all those things successfully. And it's not easy in this day and age.
Yeah.
So the point here is, number one, I would lead with my understand where he's at. I think that's so critical. If you can understand where he's at, then every interaction you have with him will come from less of a place of, I'm trying to take some sort of value, or I'm trying to get the assurance of some sort of value, but rather you go, okay, where is he at? Maybe he has every intent of getting engaged or getting married, but he's not in any position to do so financially at that stage of his life.
And if you meet him where he's at, and that's what you're doing when you lead with your understanding, you essentially give him what he needs to connect to you more and to trust you more. And when you create that connection, then you're also giving yourself a greater sense of security with him, so that you're not always feeling unsure, or is he going to propose, is he going to commit? You'll be more sure of his gradual commitment, a gradual escalating commitment to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and ultimately, if you're attuned to where he's at, you'd know whether he's emotionally committed or not.
Yeah, of course.
That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing.
Well, that comes with also, the attunement comes with leading with your understanding.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I would suggest that you focus less on the engagement. I get it. Women, sometimes when you turn 25, you get this sense of urgency. I get it. At the same time, lead with your understanding. Figure out where he's at. Really start to become attuned to where he's at emotionally, and at what stage he's in, and what his intentions are.
Yeah.
I think all your answers will lie in that little bubble, that understanding.
It's at this point, I think, a lot of women start to want to date other men as a sense of assurance. Because now, don't hate me for saying that this started for me at 25, but it did. I reached 25, I started really worrying, freaking out, if you may, at certain points, that we weren't yet engaged. And so at that point of 25 years old, I then began to have more fear. Now, that age is different for every woman. I mean, people say 30 is the new 20 or whatever. So you might have that at 35. You might even have it at 40. It depends on your values, how you were raised, and all the other factors that you could imagine. But a lot of women at that point want to start dating more men. And so what happens is it creates more of a conflict, because she's acting out of her own fear of being alone at too old an age. And as a woman, you feel like you lose the power you need to on the dating market to get a commitment. But the key is to notice that fear, feel it, and treat it as a vulnerability. Engage with it as a vulnerability, because at least then you are not at war with your man's timeline. So if you feel it as a vulnerability rather than, oh my God, I need to go out, date a lot of women, rotational dating, as some people might call it, that particular strategy, in order to have a backup, in order to make myself feel secure, rather than feeling it that way, what you need to understand is that having that response will create a type of war against your man's timeline. So instead, feel into the fear, feel it as a vulnerability, and if anything, you can let him know how it is for you. Because in a man's body where he has no womb, he has no sensitivity to time and age for reproduction, he would have no clue what it's like for you. So in a way, your vulnerability is a lesson to him for where you're at, and he gets to feel you better, and then you get to say, well, is he willing to understand, at least say, oh, okay, well, I understand where you're at. I can't give it to you yet, but okay, I understand. That's different to where I'm at. So does that make sense? So you want to be able to engage with your fear in a way that you're coming from your vulnerability. You're feeling deep into your vulnerability rather than just kind of abandoning the relationship and then ruining the trust and everything you've ever built up with this guy.
So he's 27.
Oh.
and is financially settled.
Oh.
So when I was, I guess, 25, you know,
You were a boy. No, he wasn't.
yeah, look, I probably didn't understand this sense of urgency that
No.
came to women when they hit 25.
Yeah, no.
At the, you know, you
And
have to
they
understand.
just don't. Men just don't.
I don't ovulate. I don't have eggs. I don't go through menopause. None of that. So, in fact, you know, as a member of the male species, I produce sperm until I'm 93. I don't know. So it was a very foreign idea for me, and I had to really embrace it and really appreciate it for what it is, even though I would never experience that sense of urgency. So when I understood that, I realized that it was the fear came from this sense of vulnerability that women had of time passing. Very often that vulnerability, when it comes out as fear, that it looks like
it's a threat to you.
Yeah,
Right,
it just looks like it's a disconnect. It's a she's pushing you away.
I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like she's disapproving of you.
Yeah. And then even worse, if you just get ups and goes and rotational dates.
Well, exactly.
Or just creates a bunch of ultimatums.
Yeah, just completely destroys the loyalty and
the trust.
And then you go, oh well.
But that's what fear does, though, as well. It makes you sabotage. When women anticipate that they might be abandoned, that's a scary place for a lot of women. You've got to be very mentally, emotionally, psychologically aware of when you're there, and do your best to. Is that Hector?
I'll go check.
Okay. Do your best to be aware of when you're sinking into that level of fear, and just not allow that to take over, because again. What you feel makes sense to you, but it won't make sense to a man. So you don't want to engage with him and threaten. Sorry, you don't want to not engage with him and create this sense of threat for him, because we often make the mistake of thinking that the man doesn't care, because we want a commitment and he doesn't, or we want marriage and he doesn't. We think he must not care. He doesn't feel our urgency, and so we throw up our hands and we think it's some kind of a threat to us. And so. Just understand that, yes, like David said, he's a man. It's not really a threat to you. You know, his lack of commitment doesn't have to be a threat to you. Rather, treat it as something that you want to try to understand, because that way you'll ensure that you can come across in a better way to him and bring out the best in him. So, yeah. Let me catch up on any other details with this question. You're welcome, Mary Jo. You're welcome. Okay, moving on to the next question now. Hector is awake. This is our baby Hector. Hi, Hector. What the? Why does it? It's only me. Is it lagging?
Yeah, it always lags.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Hi, Hector.
Yes, male fertility definitely drops, but it's a different ball game to female fertility. And that explains the sense of urgency, because I can promise you, as a male, no man gets that urgency at 25 or 30. They may look back when they're 50 and go, oh, it would have been nice to have some kids.
100%.
But,
and we've seen men do that.
Exactly.
Even at 65, like, oh, I kind of regret it sometimes, you know, like, maybe I could have had some kids and grandkids, like, 65, that's a bit late.
Exactly. Well, it's still
but again,
possible.
they don't have that urgency.
They don't have the urgency.
It doesn't serve their. It's to have that urgency. It serves a woman's reproductive interests. You know,
it doesn't.
More than a man. That doesn't.
Yeah. Men would just not have that sense of urgency because they don't grow babies. Hello. Okay. Is there any particular one?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just go right down to the. Oh, on abandonment. KP says on abandonment.
The self-talk to reduce my anxiety doesn't come instantly, besides sitting with a not anything I can do to be more secure versus reaching out. Yeah, good question. That's Kristen.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, personally, I would not go to self-talk. I think trying to talk yourself and convince yourself in that particular mode is very ineffective and inefficient. What I will suggest you do is one of two things. Number one is to create and find anchors of emotional safety. And number two, find sources of dopamine. Those two things are, and what I mean by emotional safety is whether it's music, a movie, books, something that gives you that anchor of emotional safety. Go there. So what you really need to do here is to change your state immediately. And your job is to figure out what it is that changes your state in those moments. What is something that will guarantee to change your state? It could be a scene in a movie, which is something that could work very well as well as music, because you know most of us will get immersed in the music or will get immersed in the movie. There might be a scene in a movie that you really resonate with, or a scene that really makes you feel deeply. I would go to those places because what you need is to feel and not to just talk yourself out of anxiety, because that's never going to work. You're never going to intellectually rationalize something out rationalize your emotions. That just doesn't work.
If anything, it's better to bring them to the surface, to feel them more. Kristen lives by herself. You live by yourself, don't you, Kristen? So, you know, if I were you, I'd also try and find a good friend or a trusted family member. Last resort, a therapist maybe, to sit with if you really feel like you need someone to bounce energy back at you. Because I feel like a lot of the time for women, it's hard to heal without some kind of force. It's hard to open further and to grieve deeper without something or someone helping you in a way, coming back at you. I find that I opened and grieved. What's the word? It's not just grieving, but it's changing my attachment style, changing my anxiety through engaging with you. Actually, the most thing that helped me the most, because you pushed through the barriers in a way. So if they don't have that, obviously, I think it's a very important thing to make it a habit to find those anchors of emotional safety, and also find sources of dopamine. I think dopamine is a huge component in your ability to change your neurological pathways. So what's dopamine for those who don't
So
understand?
dopamine is anything that makes you feel excited. That's it. Anything. It could be anything novel. It could be, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
We're heading into dangerous territory.
Not condoning anything here. What I'm suggesting here is find whatever gives you that sense of dopamine and use it intelligently to change your neural pathways. We can talk about that later on. I don't want to get too deeply into this. Okay. But you're not going to self-talk yourself out of anxiety. That just doesn't work.
Because your emotions are huge while your thoughts are tiny.
You need to change your state straight away. And you can start with a physical state change by punching something, doing some boxing, doing some burpees, going out for a run, for a walk, going out in the rain.
You can kick a beanbag.
Change your physical state, which will also lead to more of an emotional state change, or at least it brings your emotions to the surface.
So it tells your nervous system and your body that you've honored the emotions. That's what you need. That's basically all you need. Your body wants to be heard. It wants to be felt. It wants to cleanse the emotions from the past that, maybe no one heard and no one sat with you to process, not even yourself. So you just need to let your body know that, this is its chance to let it out. It's okay.
Change your physical state.
Yeah.
Number one, absolutely, you got to do that. Easiest way, if you don't want to punch something, if you don't want to kick something or move your body, hop in the shower and turn the cold water on. It'll change your state, I promise you. And it's a very vulnerable thing to do, especially if you live in a colder climate, is to have that cold water make contact with your skin.
Yeah.
You go, oh my God, I am naked physically, and there's this, what feels like a threat, imminent threat to you. Yeah. It's not going to kill you, but it's there and it exposes you, and that makes that helps your emotions to surface as well. I think once you get into your emotions, then you can start to process those emotions, and deal with them on an emotional level instead of having to rationalize and try and make sense of things on a rational level, because that is never going to work.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
Maybe this is why self-talk to self-soothe is so foreign. I noticed when I gave myself a steam facial, I felt a sense of relief. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's physiological. It's a physiological state change. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, I was just laughing at Kristen's comment. My boy. Okay, so Leah.
Get out of your body and start feeling.
Can we answer Leah? Green. L. Leah, you did a really wonderful video with a woman named Michaela. Yeah, Michaela Baum. And a lot was about feeling your gut. How can I tell between my gut or my anxiety? Yeah.
Good question. I think in that interview there was a moment where we talked about, okay, how do you know if it's really your gut instinct or is it just fear? I think that was a part of the interview. Yeah, that's right. And
it was a very good part of the interview.
Yeah, and I think...
Tension is the distinguishing factor. So if you feel... So when you are alive and breathing and operating as a normal human in the world, the universe is always sending information to you. And when you're interacting with other humans as well, information is always coming to you. But this kind of intuitive and authentic information is sometimes very quiet. And in order to hear it and to feel it, i.e. to feel your gut, you have to kind of get out of your head and be out of anxiety and not have that state of perpetual anxiety or overthinking that drowns out the spontaneous responsive information that's coming to you. So it's really about learning to engage with the world around you, being more attuned on a gut level, and that really involves just but not valuing your thoughts and not trusting the overthinking and the anxiety as much. You want me to take it?
There's another distinction there, is that when it's gut instinct, it comes to you. It's like you're sensing the information from the universe, whereas anxiety, it has that tense feeling to it. It comes from your body. It's
well, it's a sense of resistance.
You feel the fear, and you feel. I think when information comes to you and it's a gut instinct, it doesn't have a feeling attached to it. It's just information. You just acknowledge it.
That's right.
Okay. Whereas if it's anxiety or fear, it has that sense of tenseness to it.
And you have to really train over time to become more sensitive to the little signals, because most people in this world don't operate in a way that allow you to develop that from a young age. We're all about getting things right, getting the right answer in school, being smarter, being more intelligent. And also not just being more intelligent, but being more agreeable, more acceptable within society. And by doing that, that drowns out our individual power, for lack of a better word. A lot of that individual power comes from that ability to sense things, to have that gut instinct. Yeah.
Hope that answers your question.
So do you have any ideas on how they could train to have more gut instinct versus...
Just stay more emotionally quiet.
Yeah.
I think the more you are able to process your emotions so that you're no longer always living in fear or anxiety, then you're naturally going to sense things more. Yeah, okay. I think you're naturally going to sense things more just because you are able to hear and become more attuned to the environment around you and have more gut instinct feelings about things rather than being in your head or having certain emotional responses to events.
Yeah.
Hello.
Next question.
Do you meditate?
Me or you?
Both of us.
Do you? I know you do. I don't. Well, it depends.
Renee hates meditating, and I'm like, oh yeah, is there something like I don't meditate in the traditional sense. But you always have hated meditating, and I can understand why, because a lot of meditating, it's kind of, number one, boring, and it doesn't change your state.
It's too empty for me.
Too empty. You want to fill up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of empty. I'm not a big fan of, sit down, cross your legs, and think of calm blue ocean.
Think of what?
Calm blue ocean. No, I think we need to appreciate different levels of meditating. For example, if you take a cold shower, that could be a form of meditating.
Yes.
Even though you're.
See, that's the kind of
you're in
meditating I
stress.
do love. I love a cold shower. Love that, but I just don't like sitting.
Meditating could be a workout. Meditating could be it could be just a state change in some way. A state change in some way. That to me, that is meditating.
Hi, Ida said, hi, did you miss my question? She's in red. A lowercase a?
Let's
Lowercase
have a
red?
look.
Part of me is like, maybe it's just natural for men to have more than one. Okay, here's...
Many men throughout history,
Let me
and
have
how
a
many
look.
men and women
She's got
fertility
another
works
one.
there. Part of me is not sure.
Hi, wondering what each of your individual thoughts are. Wondering what each of your individual thoughts are on polygamy. I have an offer currently to be a second wife. His wife is completely okay and supportive of it, but I'm pretty jealous. So individual thoughts. Start with me. I say listen to the jealousy and listen to exactly what it's trying to tell you, because a lot of people, when they try to, especially men, try to get you into a different style of relationship. They kind of disown the feminine emotions or your emotions around the whole thing, and they try to say, yeah, well, you would only feel jealousy if you were an insecure person, or it's not natural to have jealousy. But nothing could be further from the truth. Jealousy has served us for God knows how long, centuries, to help us keep our mate. Because guess what? If we don't keep our mate, then how could us as women ever get the resources we need to help us raise our very vulnerable children? I mean, look at this, like, can I do this by myself? Well, I can, but I have two older ones, have to sacrifice a lot. So listen to the jealousy. Don't let anyone tell you that the jealousy is wrong. Just listen to what it's telling you. Imagine yourself in the future still having the jealousy, because it's not going to go away. Can you live with that jealousy? Can you learn to share, and will it benefit you? I think, first of all, I would also want to question why his wife is okay with it, and what kind of what kind of relationship they already have.
Cultural background as well.
Yeah.
In some cultures, that is more acceptable than others, but also traditionally throughout mankind, the type of societies that really thrived off polygamy were the ones that had very large, what's the word I'm looking for? Discrepancy in men's resources. So, in other words, 1% of men own 99% of the resources. In those types of societies, it is more worthwhile for women to, for men to have multiple wives, for women to chase that 1% of men because they had all the resources. Made more sense, I should say. So it really depends on your culture, but the thing is, here's what we believe. It's not just about money. It's not just about your financial resources. A lot of it has to do with your emotional and physical resources. It takes a lot of resources to raise kids. I don't know if you want kids or not, but I don't know what situation you're in.
You don't know.
But if you want kids, for example, it's going to be a lot of energy. Like, the first wife isn't going to necessarily help you with your kids.
No, yeah.
Is the husband going to do that? How are you going to split the resources?
Yeah, that's the question.
At the end of the day...
And he will have a favourite. Not conscious favourite, just a natural favourite. Men can't...
Yeah.
If he's already emotionally... Actually, you know what? If he's already emotionally committed to his wife and in love with her, then he probably wouldn't be considering this. Would you agree?
It depends on the culture.
Yeah, okay.
there are quite a few polygamous cultures out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Okay. Can we move the computer down? We can't at all. Not able to walk with him?
Up here?
Yeah, because he's not going to hand up. He's not going to stand for it. Do you want me to? Okay, let's have a look. Your baby is a little clone of David, huh? Okay. Yeah, I'll go play with him. You answer the question.
They all are.
So guys, I'm going to play with him for a bit and I'll listen to the questions on the side, and when I have something to add, I'll run in.
All right, it's up to me now. So this is the first live we've ever done with a baby. We always knew it would have its challenges, and at the end of the day, raising kids, and especially rearing babies, it's a very energy-intensive type of work. Neither of us have done much work in the last 8 months, and that's how much resources, physical, emotional resources it takes to raise kids. All right, let's answer some questions. Okay. Transcending Soul. Hey, I posted the question too. Is it natural for women to fear committing to the wrong man in case she's better suited to some? Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. I mean, think about this for a second. You are the ones carrying a baby for 9 months and then having to raise that baby. That's a lot of energy invested in that man's genetics. So if you have doubts about this man, yeah, of course, you'd be more, you'd fear committing 100% to this man. Absolutely. So it's very much, it goes both ways. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I agree, of course.
Okay, MG, my boyfriend, he's in early 20s. He's in his early 20s, but he's 33. Been working as waiter for 17 years and no car and expired license. Yet he expresses wanting to marry me in the future. How do I get him to see he needs to grow? How do I use my feminine energy to help him grow? I would suggest that you, through your connection with him, instead of thinking about how you can get him to grow, meet him where he's at. Where is he at right now at 33? What are his ambitions in life? Where is he going to take his life? What's important to him? Those are the things that you need to address, and you need to feel into him to find out. Don't stress so much about what you're getting in return until you can meet him where he's at first. That's what I would say. At the end of the day, this is not about your feminine energy. It's not like you can just twirl your hair or any other, drop your hanky and something magical would happen. No, connect with him. Just figure out who he is. How long have you guys been together? Really connect. That's number one. Lead with your understanding. And from your understanding, you offer a sense of value to him that he would want to reciprocate. And then that's how relationships get deeper. You connect over that. Otherwise, you're just creating disconnects. If you ask the question of how do I get this from him? Does that make sense?
And also, can I just add something else about it pays to kind of figure out whether you're the one and only or not, because sorry guys, if you're the one of many, he will string you along for as long as possible, and to his benefit. So the question is, have you seen any of our work on the one and only woman versus the one of many? If you haven't, I suggest you join up our newsletter list. Go to thefemininewoman.com, put your email in somewhere and you'll get our emails. Actually, they can go to boo.com. Is that right?
It was Boo DVD. But just go to thefemininewoman.com. You'll find many ways to get on our email list.
Yeah, and just learn a bit about that. I've also got a great article on my website about how to test him to see if he cares. So just go search that. Test him. You can find out if you're the one of many, one and only. Because if you are the one of many, you can either stay and try and create that deeper connection, emotional attraction, or you can decide to leave. Because once you are the one of many, once you're in that basket, it's a bit harder to get out. But regardless, even if you led with your understanding, like David described, you would leave the relationship with more relationship skills for the next man who is right for you.
Celine asks, could you give tips on moving on from like a super passionate relationship? I would suggest just feel and be grateful for what it was. If you can't have gratitude for what you've experienced and felt and contributed to, then you would never really move beyond that.
You know what? I think that's one step too far. For a woman, we hang on to things too much. So we need to break that hanging on, that attachment, before we can look back and go, oh, that was great. I'm really grateful.
How would you suggest you break?
Let me just go cry in the closet now.
Well, it's okay. That's a part of the process. You might have to cry in the closet. That's okay.
Yeah, so that's step number one then.
Yeah, so grieve, I guess.
Yeah.
Grieve.
Step number one, grieve.
So yeah, you definitely have to grieve if you haven't done all the grieving.
Yep.
And know that you need to be grateful for what happened.
Step one, grieve, process. There is no real shortcut to getting over someone. And this is why it's so important to test when you get into a relationship, to know what kind of relationship you're in. Because once you just go along with the flow and you just let your passion kind of drive you, then you could end up in a relationship that you have to then grieve that it wasted 5 to 10 years of your time, kind of thing. So let it remind you of how important it is to test when you first meet a guy, when in the first 3 to 6 months. Be very aware, be very attuned to what his intentions are, because you don't want to let yourself just go along with whatever it is and just be passionate, and then in the end you have more grieving to do. This is not to say that your relationship had no value for you, the passionate relationship, because it did. It could be the reason you learn to be more discerning and more attuned in the future. Yeah.
Buzzy, do you have any tips on how to shift from cerebral analytical way of experiencing the world to more of an emotional, energetic way of experiencing the world? So, number one, practice it.
Yeah.
And you practice it by actually start to notice what makes you feel emotional. And it doesn't matter what kind of emotion, actually. I find that one emotion, once you get into that emotional realm, it's easy to be overwhelmed with all sorts of emotions.
Yeah.
So practice, so take notice of things that make you feel emotional, whether it's a story, books, movies, songs, whatever it is. Make a note of that. Make a mental note and practice it. I feel like there's a real benefit in having a daily ritual of practicing emotions. And back to the topic of meditation, I feel like real meditation is your ability to practice those emotional states.
I had an answer and then I turned away.
and it's gone.
Yeah.
Boo.
What was I going to say? No, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh yeah, that's right. First of all, so the question was about moving from an analytical way of operating through life to feeling deeper. First of all, know that you don't have to be right about anything. I think a lot of the times we are conditioned through our schooling years to try to be right, try to be smart, and this takes away from our ability to be spontaneous and to feel and be more seated in our flow energy. Not only that, but a lot of the times when we're analytical as women, we're trying to gain a sense of certainty, which is kind of almost necessary for us because feminine energy is very uncertain. We're always sensitive to other people's emotions as well as our own. So our emotions move with the world around us, and they also move with the interactions that we have with others. And this is by nature not certain at all. So yeah, often we go to analytical thoughts and processes to try to reduce that uncertainty and anxiety. So I think part of it is knowing that it's okay and reminding yourself, having a principle in your life to know that it's okay to not feel certain, to know that it's okay to ride out this feeling. I mean, right now with this uncertainty in the world, especially here in Victoria, where we seem to be the leading country for new policies. It's a very uncertain world, and I'm always responding to everyone's emotions around me and the news around me. And I'd noticed myself getting very hopeful one moment, and then very sad one moment. And you've just got to learn to be okay that this is a part of being a human being, a part of being a feminine soul. So I hope that helped. I hope it made sense. Do you want to look at the next question?
All right. Let's have a look. KP, when you haven't had a healthy model of relationships and previous relationships not healthy, when you get those green flags from a man, how do we receive those mentally better?
Green flags?
As in positive green flags, as opposed to red flags.
How do we receive them better? Why would you need to receive them better?
Or maybe instead of being overly, perhaps, pessimistic about them.
Oh, yeah.
I miss the opportunities for programs. Yes, we'll get back to those. We'll run more sales in the future. Especially commitment control. I'm actually in the middle of putting together a few new videos for commitment control to make the overall program even better. But we'll definitely let you know some opportunities in the near future because, I'm in the middle of creating some new videos. I think to answer your question, KP, it's important, I think, to have some anchors of, as I mentioned, anchors of emotional safety first. Some, even when we haven't grown up with the best, the healthiest relationships around us, I think we can still find them in stories, in movies, etc., and hold on to those stories as our reference points. And I think that's this is especially true if you're single and you just cannot find any other references. I think it's a great idea to go out there and look for them in movies, in storybooks, etc., and make them your anchors. Make them your anchors so that you can have that sense of emotional safety to go back to, so that you don't always have to stay in a state of stress when anything happens. I mean, when it comes to a relationship, especially the early stages, there's always so many ups and downs and so many turns, unexpected turns, and they can really throw you off, especially if you have insecure attachment styles and you just don't have good reference points. So I think it's a very important thing to find your own emotional anchors, anchors of emotional safety first. And from that place, at least you know that you can go to a place of safety. So therefore, you naturally would be less threatened by every little unexpected event. Does that make sense? Okay. Just going through the comments. There's quite a few comments. Benson625, does commitment resistance show up differently for a widower? He was together with his wife for 10 years, no kids. I'm the first person he's dated since she died a year ago. We have dated a few months. That really depends on the individual, depending on what meaning they took out of their previous relationship. So it's hard for me to comment on an individual basis. He's a great person, emotionally resourceful. That's fantastic. So in that sense, there wouldn't be any other specific emotional resistance that a man who's not a widower would have, for example. In those situations, the best thing you could do is lead with your understanding. And the more we've spent doing this line of work, the more we've realized there are just so many just little differences that we take for granted, just because they're the opposite sex. I mean, their whole hormonal system is different. Their whole paradigm, the way they look at the world, everything is so different. And if we can start to really understand and appreciate those differences, I think we can really influence people in a positive way, and thus allowing people to reciprocate and offer value to us. How soon would you be able to tell if he's a one and only in his eyes? I mean, how long is the period of sussing you out for? That period is usually relatively quick. What would you say?
Within the first 6 months, you'll know.
Yeah, definitely within the first 6 months. I would say in the first month or in the first couple of weeks. What we're talking about here is the mechanism of falling in love, and those the chemicals that are released in that process is basically the pair bonding mechanism, and that is the emotional signal for a man to go, okay, that's the one and only. So that process is usually pretty quick. It doesn't drag on, kind of thing. Men usually that mechanism fires off, and it happens really quick. Okay, let's move on. Rose, how do I reconcile with my man after a nasty fight? He isn't calling even after I apologized sincerely and stayed away. Regret telling him I was done, but I later confessed that I wasn't serious. Rose, I don't know anything about your situation, but here's a couple of...
First thing is, don't beat yourself up for saying that women speak, for a woman, their truth comes from the emotion that they speak in the moment. So you're not the first woman and won't be the last to be in that situation. So the first step is to understand yourself, respect where it came from, even though you may be feeling guilty. That's my first piece of advice.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I have said it before too.
Yeah, I'm sure most women have. And in fact, if you're a woman who's never done it, then no. Would men really trust that? Probably not. Because you can trust emotions, because emotions are real. But to trust words, I mean, everyone's got words.
Yeah.
So how do I reconcile with my man? Just, if you feel like you've stepped over the line, apologize and say, I'm sorry. I was mad.
She already said sorry.
And do it sincerely. And if you're truly genuine with your emotion, I think, most men wouldn't have a problem with that. But obviously, I don't know how long you've been together, etc., etc. If you're truly genuine and have great intent, then, and not the intent of creating disconnects or the intent to hurt someone else. If you have positive intent, then I can promise you good things will happen. And if he's not the man for you, then you'll realize that as well when you lead with your positive intent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and also if you feel like you may have broken his trust, well, meet him where he's at. Start in that way and say, I know I'm really sorry. I was crazy. I know you probably lost trust for me, and I completely understand why. I just felt really sorry. I just felt really scared, or I just felt
I was scared.
Really hurt.
I was scared. I was hurt.
I was terrified. I'm invested in this relationship, So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's whatever is genuine is going to win. Okay, Transcendent Soul says, I'm loving this Q&A so much. Thank you. It's not easy with a baby.
No.
Certainly not easy with a baby. We thought we'd do this to test it out, how easy it would be.
It's not very easy, is it? Sorry, guys. Give us another year and then we can be back to you probably with full...
Next Q&A, a year later.
No, we'll do the Q&As, but it's just, we'll have to do it like this.
I know. Yes, this is being recorded and you can watch it later. Okay, let's move down. What do I do if I'm not often physically attracted to a man? I try to give it a chance. I will still go out with men I'm not attracted to because maybe it takes time, but attraction feels rare.
Yeah, look, there's not that many high-value men out there, and when there are high-value men, there's a lot of competition for them.
And look, yeah, you want to add something?
Yeah, just quickly, I was going to say, but we want to distinguish between. Okay, let me start with women have what's called a greater disgust. A higher threshold for, is it higher or lower threshold? How do you say?
Lower threshold.
They have a lower threshold for disgust, which means for women it's very easy to become judgmental and to reject and to be in your state of fear and judgment, basically. So we want to distinguish between being like that and being genuinely like, oh look, you really are not worth my investment. I want to try because there's no one else available, but I just can't feel it for you. So we want to distinguish between the judgment and the genuine filtering out of the low quality men kind of thing. There's nothing you can really do if he's really a low quality man other than if you really feel it's worth your energy and effort to try, look for where he identifies to the masculine. So often we're very quick to discount men, for example, if they don't have that shiny portfolio of success, of good looks, of intelligence, things like that. But every man has his own way to connect to his masculine. And if you can identify what that is, for example, whether it be building model cars on the weekend or whether it be playing video games to access that his masculine energy, then you yourself can feel whether you're able to appreciate his masculine energy, whether that's working for you, and you go from there. That would be the best advice I could give you if you wanted to try and see if you could take it somewhere with a particular guy that you don't really feel that attracted to.
So yeah, I just want to add my 2 cents. Yeah. So very often it's when you interact with men, if there is not much chemistry there, then your brain rationalizes, okay, what am I doing here? Okay, it doesn't feel like I'm very attracted to this person. But in those situations, you can always bring out more life from the person that you're interacting with. And when you bring out more life, more energy, that will come out as, if it's a masculine man, it will come out as the masculine energy. And that would help create more chemistry in those interactions. So what I'm saying here is you can influence the emotional attraction in that moment. And to do that, this is why we started this whole banter thing, is because I believe you can actually create it from scratch, create it from thin air. You can go into an interaction with no prior attraction for someone and establish that connection on the spot. And once you do that, you'll find that you will become more attracted to this person and vice versa, and because you click on a different level. Does that make sense? So you can really influence how much you're attracted to the other person by bringing out the playfulness, bringing out that dark side, bringing out the masculine energy in the men that you speak to. And you do that through banter. If you haven't attended my free banter class, high value banter class, go to highvaluebanter.com, go check it out. It'll be the best 1 hour that you'll ever spend. And I truly believe that this is some of the most valuable thing you can do when it comes to dating and relationship, is to get good at banter. Hope that answered your question. And look, if you do your best with all the banter and there's still no chemistry, then it's good to say, oh, well, nice meeting you, and good luck. Okay. Do you think guys move on faster? No, I don't think guys move on faster. I do believe that guys attach slower. What do you think?
Yep, definitely attach slower.
So here's something that we've actually just put together a brand new program titled High Value Attachment. The topic of this particular program is to address women's feminine bias for early attachment. I'll say that again. Women's feminine bias for early attachment. Why it's important to understand it, acknowledge it, appreciate it, and also how you can use that bias to not cause disconnects, not scare men away, but to create a deeper sense of emotional attraction in every interaction you have with men. This bias is there because women, feminine souls, they lead the commitment process. Men may lead with their interest. Hector, I was saying something very, very important. Very important. Men lead with their interest. Women lead with their attachment, early attachment. And the reason why this is important is because in order for men to get involved in an intimate relationship, which is the feminine domain, it's usually the women who lead that process, because men, it's a foreign space for men. They don't get it. They don't. It's weird for men. Yeah. This sense of intimacy, this sense of intimate relationship. So knowing that, getting back to your question, what was your question again? Let me get back. Man, let's see. What was the question again?
The question was, do men attach slower?
Do men? Oh yeah, men attach slower. So yeah, so men don't let go faster, but they. So how you feel very often, how women feel, how attached they feel to a man, is not exactly how he feels, how attached he is in that relationship, especially in the early stages. That's very, very important for you to understand. So women attach earlier, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can express that in low value ways. You can express that in high value ways. But do know that women attach earlier, and men need to have that emotional connection, emotional attraction, for them, inspire them to attach themselves to you and to the relationship. So hope that makes sense. We'll be releasing that program hopefully next week, and we'll be, so if you're on our email list, you'll get an email about this. Okay. Okay. Transcending Soul question. Single for 11 years, still emotionally unavailable, and have permanent STI. How to combat this territory? Cold sore. What I understand, and obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not here to prescribe medical advice, but what I understand of it is that if you stay healthy and keep yourself healthy, then those things become dormant in your body, those viruses. And I think that's a very important thing to understand. When you look into viruses and the human body, you find that most of us have these viruses inside of us staying dormant, and they only ever come out when we are stressed, when our nervous system is under attack, or when our bodies are under attack or under stress, because we wouldn't have the resources to keep these viruses dormant. So if you keep yourself healthy and you reduce your stress in whichever way you want, then they wouldn't be as much of a concern. I think most of us have these viruses, and I think that's how our immune system are supposed to work. So I hope that adds value to you. Sanasha asks, please help me stop looking for validation when we're fighting to feel loved by him. I think my emotions tend to overwhelm him. And yes, your emotions will overwhelm him. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Women, feminine souls, you guys are emotional creatures, and that's okay. I think, men are emotional too, but they have their emotions sort of packed away in little boxes. And for 99% of for 99% of the day, those boxes are stored away because he's got to get on with his day and he's got to do things, solve problems, fix things, and emotions don't help with that process. So I think it's, number one, honoring your own overwhelming emotions, honoring the fact that you are feminine in your soul and you have these emotions and they are important. These are the same emotions that will inspire men to want to take care of you, want to commit to you, because at the end of the day, I mean, if you weren't vulnerable, then why would you need a man, right? So please help me stop looking for validation when we're... Okay, so in order to... I don't quite understand your question, but in order for you to deal with this issue of him being overwhelmed by your emotions, I would suggest that you just tell him, hey, none of this is your fault and there's nothing to fix here. I know that you're great at fixing problems. I know that you can solve things, complex things, but you don't need to do any of that right now. You don't need to do any of that here. My job here as a woman is to feel, because it's through my emotions that we can reach a deeper insight, whatever that may be, and come up with a deeper realization about something. So your job is to just hold the space for me to feel. None of it's your fault. I'm not going to blame you. Even if I do, I'm sorry. I'm not going to, it comes out sometimes, but it's not your fault. I promise you that. And I'll stand by that. And, I just need to feel. And start from there. Start from there. Make sure that he really understands what you need out of that situation. Because at the end of the day, it's not about him. And if you can disarm his defenses, then you're going to get a lot further. And instead of your emotions overwhelming him, he'll be there to want to hear your emotions, to feel your emotions. And that if you can tell him that that's the best thing he could do, then maybe everything will change. Maybe he'll have new insights and go, wow, that's how I connect deeper with my woman. Heather says, my man lives in Australia and the borders are closed. Gosh, do we know about that? I've been waiting for 3 years. I really love him, but should I just continue waiting? I've never asked anyone this before. Look, I can't answer that for you, obviously. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with this man, whether it's 3 years long distance or not. But I can tell you the border situation, I don't know, there's no sign of it looking better in the near future. But at the end of the day, you have to connect with him and feel where he's at. That's the most important thing. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm sorry. Okay. Who is asking a question? Let me just find it for you. Okay, question. Should a woman trust a man who initially said having children is a must have, but now he's acting like you are his one and wants to marry? What? If you can rephrase that, that would make it easier. It's not easy deciphering all these questions sometimes. Should a woman trust a man who initially said having children is a must-have, but now he's acting like you are his one and wants to marry you? I'm confused. I am confused.
Is it because you can't have children?
I'm not sure. If you can clarify your question, that would make it easier. Where is the boundary between chasing a man and subtle initiating? Good question. Good question. So, number one, you would know you've been chasing when you're always initiating and it's not reciprocated. And by reciprocating, it doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to take a week to figure out that, oh, you've initiated too much. It's a moment-to-moment thing. So you stay attuned moment to moment. That's how you figure that out. I wouldn't overthink it because at the end of the day, there's some leeway for you to initiate a few times, but if he doesn't reciprocate, that's telling you something. If he doesn't reciprocate, that means, oh, okay, maybe he's not at the same level I'm on, and maybe I need to change my strategy. I need to figure out, okay, where he's at, and maybe I need to let it go. So stay attuned. You can always initiate, but after 2 or 3 times and it's not reciprocated, that's a sign.
And you can also read my... okay. So I just wanted to add, guys, on the topic of not coming across as chasing a man, there's some good distinctions in my article, How to Make Him Chase You and Value You, High Value Women Secrets. So in there I go through all the ways in which women try to combat coming across as someone who chases a guy, and in there you'll find pretty much all the answers I had at the time, and the finer distinctions that will help you initiate in high value ways and learn the difference between showing up as low value and high value. So you can search that on my website.
Transcending Soul, thinking about making purchase on the banter program in the future. Yeah, please.
Transcending Soul is Holly.
I know. I just, I know it's Holly. Do check out the 3 case studies that we have about banter. I truly believe it's a technique, a strategy, a way to not only have better interactions with men, but also help yourself develop more secure attachment patterns, because you get this positive feedback when you're able to add value to every single man that you ever come across. I think that is a super valuable skill to have. Rose says, thanks so much for your response. I appreciate it a lot. Yes, my intention is to connect with this man because I love him so much, have deep respect for him, and don't ever want to lose him. Very good. Julie, gratitude for the work that you do to build up others in the world. Much love. Thank you, Julie. P. Jones, how do you build more connection with a man when a man is busy with work? He sends you a good morning text, but we don't get to talk often because he's so busy at work and devotes time to family. So, to all the men who are workaholics out there, look, they don't necessarily have the space for anything, for a relationship to take place. That's the reality of it. Not everyone has a balanced lifestyle, whatever that even means in this day and age. And if a man chooses to do his work over connecting, relating to people, that's his choice. That's his choice. Asma, how can I be allowed to allow and invite quality men to approach me? I'm shy and introverted and I miss the cues. It's not always easy to pick up the cues, but at the same time, I must say, men don't give you subtle cues like women do. So you don't necessarily have to pick up on all the cues. Your job is to, number one, if you haven't done it already, go check out the banter course, the banter class. Go to highvaluebanter.com. Just check out the free class. Look at the case studies. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're introverted or not. If you have the skill of banter, that's a game changer. It changes everything for you. You don't have to be an extrovert in order to understand, appreciate, and use banter to create a deeper connection with men. And it doesn't take very much. It does not take very much. Dork Shadow. That's an interesting name. How to know if a man has moved on from their ex. They were together for 8 years. She broke up with him when she was certain with her next relationship. Well, connect with him. Feel what he's feeling. There's no easy answer to that. You got to feel. You got to get inside his skin and understand what they went through and what the relationship meant for him. There is no easy answer there. Spend the time. Invest your energy. Invest your time in this man if you cared about that enough. Okay. Celine, if you're not vulnerable, then why would you need a man? Well, I've been physically in danger for trusting the wrong person before, so I see exactly where you come from. Good. Good. Rose Greenwood, please, wouldn't it be low value to reach out first to him after this fight? I'm scared of him still being angry and reject me and not respond at all. Our relationship was great and resilient before now. Absolutely not low value. Absolutely not. Especially
not if you hurt him.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been in a relationship. You've already established those things. Look, this idea of high value, low value, it's gotten out of hand.
Way out of proportion. And it wasn't like this when we... Okay, back in 2009, 2010, when we brought this idea to the market, this idea of low value and high value was simply about showing up as a higher value mate so that you can attract a higher value mate. And it's just gotten so out of hand because there have been so many people who have come on and, tried to create an online career for themselves who really never really cared about these concepts because these concepts weren't their own. They didn't come up with them. They don't understand the real value of them and how they actually help people and in what context. So just by reaching out to a guy, for goodness sake, unless you're completely out of tune with someone and you're bugging someone and you don't care about the feedback they're giving you, that they don't want to hear from you, well, the act of reaching out to someone doesn't make you low value. It only makes you low value if you're constantly reaching out to try and take something from them. The act of taking value repeatedly over time and not hearing the little messages and the signals and the feedback they're giving you and ignoring that, yeah, that's low value. That's not even low value. That's just silly. So let's not think about this low value thing as I'm low value if I reach out. He should always reach out so that I can feel like, I'm really high value. No, the concept of high value matters in terms of you showing up high value and having value to offer. And in the case of a relationship, that is emotional attraction and emotional connection. So again, if you hurt him and you are the one who hurt him, absolutely not. You feel free to reach out to him. And was this the lady I spoke to before? The same lady?
I think so.
Sorry, I was over there. I don't know. But again, just say, I'm really sorry. I was crazy. Sorry if I broke your trust. And at least you get to walk away, not thinking about and stressing about how you were low value or high value, but you took the high road. You did the right thing regardless. So,
if you want to summarize what is low value, what is high value is your ability and desire and intention to add value to other people. Low value is your intention to take value. That's it.
That doesn't mean you can't take value, but I think we all know when we've all had people in our lives who keep coming, only come when they want something, and who couldn't give two shits about how you feel and what's going on in your life. That's low value. So you can take value. I take value from him and he takes value from me. But we're very balanced in the sense that we care deeply about each other and we're willing to meet each other where each other are at. So from that perspective, we can never really step over the line in terms of extracting too much value because we're too attuned to each other. Does that make you agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that turned out to be a decent idea.
Salty.
See how long it lasts?
KP, when a guy is bummed, insert emotion, after validating and acknowledging his emotions, is it a good question to also ask the guy, how can I support you, or how can I be there for you? As a man, especially if you're in the early stages of dating this man, I would say no. I would say just be with him rather than just ask him. I would say just be there. I think a lot of things should be unspoken. Like there's nothing you need to do or you can do. It's just about being there for him, and sometimes just believing in someone and not having to voice that.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I addressed this question in an article on my site called, it's titled How to Comfort Your Man. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I said. Sometimes just being there, being in his presence is more than enough. And he'll feel it. Do you want me to read the question? So Transcending Soul says, so being valuable to other people is simply going with the intention to add value. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And a lot of that it also comes down to willing to be attuned, because here's our unfortunate human bias. It's that we know our wants way better than we know other people's wants. And that creates a huge imbalance in relationships, where if you, for example, you had a bad childhood growing up, bad examples for relationships, you had people who abused you and took value from you, you may not be very good at being attuned to other people and being aware of other people. But it's a practice, and the more you can get out of yourself and understand where other people are, the more it empowers you and helps you meet your needs. Because no matter what, we're always biased towards our own wants and needs, and that's just like a human blind spot. And it particularly comes out when we're trying to relate to, as women, to the male species, because often before enough emotional attraction and emotional connection is built up, our needs are in direct conflict with his. So, yeah, and those needs only kind of cross over and meet each other when you're both in love. So, yeah, I hope that answered. Was there a question? I was answering something. A question or a statement? Okay, Julie AZ. Do you want me?
We'll wrap it up soon.
Yeah, we don't want him to whine on the... Sorry, guys. He's still tired.
He is still tired. He is still tired. All right, maybe we'll wrap it up soon. I still don't understand your question. Should I trust the man who initially says children is a must-have, and now he acts like you're his one and only and insists he wants to marry you?
No, it doesn't.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. Your plan is not to have children.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's the missing piece, right? That's the missing piece. That's really hard to say. It depends on... Look,
what was the question?
should I trust the man who initially says children is a must-have, and now he acts like you're his one and only and insists he wants to marry you?
Or should I trust him in terms of what? Should I trust him in terms of he's not going to bait and switch, in terms of like, now he says it's okay that I don't want kids, but later on he's going to pressure me? Or should I trust him in terms of, does he really love me? Which kind of trust? First, let's distinguish what you want to know whether you can trust him for first.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, we can't make those decisions for you. It's your relationship. You have to be attuned. You have to make those decisions. But the best I got for you is stay tuned, connect with him, and understand each other deeply. Understand why is it that he wanted to have kids, and how he could see his life without having kids, and why, and have him understand you and why you don't want to have kids. And start there. Start with understanding. Whenever you can lead with understanding, you'll have those answers. Those answers will come to you. You won't have to ask me. Obviously, I don't know you or your man. Okay. Julie, question. I'm attractive and reluctantly pass on men if they consistently present emotional immaturity, shame, addiction, fragile ego. I know how much work it takes to heal. Am I passing too soon? That really depends. So what I would suggest, and I don't know how old you are, Julie, what I would suggest is gauge who you should pass on according to the chemistry you have with them, according to the emotional attraction, emotional connection you're able to build with this man, especially within the first, I would say, 2 weeks. I would give someone 2 weeks, and if really you can't get anything going, it doesn't matter if he's got everything ticked off, on paper. It doesn't matter because it's not going to work out. And if you do hit it off in the first 2 weeks, and he has certain traits, he may be emotionally immature, which, by the way, emotionally immature, I mean, you can use those words to describe every single man on earth.
Yeah, emotionally immature can mean, lots of things.
It could mean, yeah, exactly. It's such a broad term.
From he's not a woman like me to...
Exactly. He doesn't have the emotional depth that I have as a woman.
Yeah.
It could mean so many things.
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't mean that...
But the fact that he has a lot of shame and that...
Oh, it's a separate trait, but...
Yeah.
Just because a man, for example, let's say a 30-year-old man has a side to him that is emotionally immature, doesn't mean that that's the only side of him, that's the only facet of him that exists or that he practices. So, shame, addiction, fragile ego, yeah, I understand a lot of these can be more problematic, especially long term. But I also believe that those things can be rectified, remedied, especially if there was chemistry, there was emotional attraction, emotional connection to start with, because that is fuel for people to want to make changes. At the end of the day, I mentioned earlier in this live, dopamine is a very, very important neurotransmitter. And it helps in rewiring the brain in terms of old habits into new habits, etc. And what creates a lot of dopamine is the process, the pair bonding process, the process of falling in love and becoming one and only. That process releases a crap ton of dopamine, and that is fuel to make any future changes. Okay. All right, let's wrap it up soon. I also want to address Elena's question. I think we should do that together. But let's just... one more question from Celine. What would you think about a guy who's respected, well-mannered, but just doesn't follow through on his word and says it takes time for him to connect, and who leaves and tries to come back? Okay, so as a rule of thumb, this is me as a man talking about other men. As a rule of thumb, if someone doesn't keep their word, they're gone. As a man, I cannot trade. I cannot do business. I cannot keep another man around in my life if they do not keep to their word. And in traditional cultures, keeping their word is very, very well valued, because what is there to a man other than his ability to keep to his word? Okay, let's talk about... let's address Elena's question. She was sort of asking both of us, so she's been with this man for 10 months. Amazing work, Elena, if you're watching this. Definitely, I think an inspiration to many, especially coming from the background that you've come from. Now, I can't find your question. Where is it? Just bear with me. So she was asking for, I think, frameworks to have. How do you keep a long-term relationship? How do you make it closer? Yeah. I am scrolling through. Facebook has been funny lately, and it's not always easy to find the things that I've been looking for. Where are you? Just bear with me. I'm just doing a quick search. So, just to start this off, a couple of frameworks that I think will be very valuable, especially in a long-term relationship. So this is sort of past the initial dating stage. This is when you've become exclusive and you're in a relationship. A couple of different frameworks. Number one, I would suggest understanding masculine and feminine. I think that's an absolute must, and I feel like that framework is way more valuable in an established long-term relationship than when you're in the dating stages, because so many coaches out there use those terms in totally the wrong context, the masculine feminine paradigm, the framework. So I would really understand, really get a grasp of that framework and use that framework to guide your relationship to become closer. Another framework is obviously value. We talk about value quite a lot. The types of value in a long-term relationship tends to differ to the types of value initially in the dating stages. So when you're already exclusive, you're in that relationship, value tends to become more of a deepening a deeper understanding of the other person as well as of yourself. And that understanding makes you feel like that person is less of an enemy or a threat, but more of someone else just going through life and wants to be understood and wants to be connected with and understanding those the commonalities that you have with other people, even if they're someone of the opposite sex. I think that's tremendously valuable. I think I found her post, and I think the 6 human needs is also a very, very useful framework to look at long-term relationships. I don't think we have spoken about the 6 human needs as much as a framework. Maybe we'll talk more about that in a later video. So this framework comes from Tony Robbins. I'm not sure if he got it from somewhere else. But 6 human needs.
I think it's based on Maslow's hierarchy.
I don't think it is. No, different. Very different. 6 human needs: certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution. So we can talk about that another time, because that's a huge topic in itself. I think we wrote a little PDF a long time ago on it. It's out of circulation, unfortunately, but
that was 10 years ago now. 11 years.
There's definitely a lot of value in understanding that framework. Any other frameworks that you can think of for long-term relationships?
Yes, there is something long-term relationships.
So when we talk about frameworks, we a lot of the times it's the big, value. If you keep taking value from your relationship, it's not going to work out well. So the idea of adding value, but adding value in the ways that will be perceived as value. So therefore, you have to understand him from his masculine perspective, and that's an ongoing journey as well.
Yeah, and it also depends on what value can change when kids come into the picture as well. But I definitely think in a long-term relationship, focus on playfulness. How can you bring playfulness to the table? Because everyone worries about that monotony that kicks in and that predictability, the routine that comes into long-term relationships, especially women. I've seen they get very concerned about that. So focus on playfulness and.
Banter is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
We had that interaction a few days ago. I can't remember what it was now. We had it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
What was it?
No,
You wrote it down.
No, this is actually quite important. I'm glad you brought it up. For women, to help them with kickstart their banter. So there was something that happened, and then, I wanted to go for a walk. I wanted to go for a walk, which is a simple request, right? But this one would rather hole himself up and work all day. And so I said to him something like, yeah, well, I hate you, don't you? And then you said something like,
you can go for a walk forever then. Or something. I don't remember what I said.
No, he basically returned it with equal ammo, like equal.
Yeah.
It's as,
reciprocated.
so for a woman, it can be, to banter, it can be as simple as allowing an outlet for your hatred.
The expression of your emotions in that moment.
But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like I hate you, like, and I really hate it. It was like, well, you know, I hate you, don't you? So it was obvious that I was respecting our differences.
Yeah.
He knows I don't always like the fact that I have to go walking alone. It's, you know, so it came out, I said it in a playful way, and it created a very fun kind of interaction. Sure, our 3 kids were in the room and, you know, we don't get much alone time, but it really helps to
bring out the energy.
It solidifies our relationship with each other. It solidifies
and
that
trust.
That bubble, that trust, and the strength of your connection.
It sounds like we've been married for 60 years. Honey, it's time to go for our daily walk. Oh no, I can't do it today, honey.
You would never go for a daily walk with me.
Gosh, my God, kill me now. Just kill me now.
Pulling teeth.
Find a new husband, please.
And it's always been this way. It's not since after we had kids. It was always like, honey, do you want to go for a walk around the park?
Come on. Is there anything less productive than going out for a walk? No, okay.
You can get some vitamin D.
Vitamin D. I don't need vitamin D.
Anyway.
Anyhow.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
Yeah, okay. So Elena says, I often find myself clueless trying to get something across and getting a reaction that I wasn't aiming for, and I know I can do better. And that's the hardest journey in any relationship. And a big part of that is just going, you know, men, they're always trying to solve problems. Sometimes you have to just tell them, and I have to, you know, remind myself sometimes, there's nothing to solve, you just have to listen, you have to be emotionally present, and that's a really energy-intensive thing to do, especially for men, and they got shit to do. They got problems to solve and things to fix.
And sitting with emotions seems very unproductive as well, I'm sure. It seems. Unless you can make it clear to him, to the man, that being with your emotions allows him to connect deeper with you and keeps the relationship happier and healthier. Yeah,
that's right. It's a very counterintuitive thing for men to understand that. And it is I think it takes a lot more energy for men to sit in a conversation with a woman than for women to sit in that same conversation. So it's important to respect that and to acknowledge it and to really appreciate it when men do spend their energy, their time in the conversation. Because I can tell you, it takes a lot of energy. I mean, for me as a man, my energy is spent on solving problems. Okay, something's broken. I got to go fix that. Something else. Oh, right, the light's not working. So much of my daily energy is geared towards how do I solve the next problem before they even come up. And what was I going with this? And as a woman, you know, your daily focus is obviously going to be very, very different. So it's important for women to, I guess, understand that it costs men more energy to be in that same conversation and to talk about your emotions, because all men want to do is solve problems in the most energy efficient way possible. And if you can get across to him that you don't need to solve anything, all you have to do is just be here with me, and that's going to make everything better, and I promise you things will look a lot brighter if you can just do that, then, you know, I think you'll make the connection a lot closer instead of creating disconnects. I think in this day and age, very often we don't have the time in that moment to address things all the time. So I think it's a good idea to get a notepad, get a book, write your emotions down. And as you capture the quality of that emotion, of those emotions in that moment, then you can address it later on with your man and unpack those emotions, because it's all being stored down on a piece of paper or somewhere, and you can address it when he has the emotional resources to do so. Does that make sense? Because we get tired. We got to go to work. We got to do things. And men get tired, and when they're tired, they don't have necessarily the emotional resources to sit there, hold that space, and be there for you. I hope that's added some value. Okay. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live Q&A. It's probably been the most troublesome Q&A. Oh, they're gone. You coming back? Yeah. We'll wait for Renee to come back. It's not easy. It is not easy doing Q&A with a baby. I hope you guys have enjoyed our answers, and it's been a lot of fun connecting with you guys. We've sort of missed it of last year or so. Can I say hi? Yeah, you can say hi. Come on, boys. You gotta come up here.
Okay, so
let's wrap this up. Again, if you are not on our email list, you can go to The Feminine Woman, and I'm sure there are a lot of links that you can put your email in and become one of our subscribers. We will definitely do a few more sales in the coming weeks, and we'll be adding a few new programs into our list of courses. We have high value attachment coming out very soon. Very excited about that. We actually shot the whole thing before the baby was born.
Yeah.
We just never had the time to release it.
Yeah.
So that is coming out, and I'm also, if you want to learn more about how you can create a more secure attachment style for yourself, let me know, and we'll maybe do a class on that separately. And as always, if you have any questions, leave it in our Facebook group. If you're not a part of our Facebook group yet, join us, and you get a lot of smart women giving you their perspective as well.
Yeah, you can go to Facebook and search
High Value Feminine Women.
High Value Feminine Women.
Correct.
And for those of you who are already members of our work, we have a Shenwade Media alumni group. That's for our exclusive members. And in there, the women are super supportive. It's an amazing, tight-knit group of women who have mostly been through our work carefully, and they have good answers. All
right. Let's wrap this up. We've had a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do this every few weeks. What do you think?
Not going to happen every few weeks. Once a month, maybe.
Once a month.
Good aim for that.
Yeah, it's enjoyable for us
but as this
connect.
one gets older, yeah, our free time will come back. So.
All right, guys. I hope you've had fun. We've had fun. And get on our email list or our Facebook group. And, I can't wait to see you again in one of our lives.
Thank you for being with us, guys. And I'm sorry it was a little bit...
chaotic?
Yeah, chaotic is the word. Yeah.
It's going to be like that for a while.
See you next time, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Why did you say bye? What the hell you talking?